Hi, my name is Shelby Caudell, and I'm doing my project on the importance of continuing research and bringing awareness to juvenile diabetes. Juvenile diabetes is type 1 diabetes, but this is when it affects children. Juvenile diabetes isn't caused by a lifestyle or anything like type 2 usually is considered. Um, Juvenile diabetes is when the pancreas stops producing insulin, which is used to break down your food to get the energy from it. And with juvenile diabetes, the pancreas stops producing beta cells because the immune system is attacking them, and just it causes a lot of health problems. The juvenile diabetes, like those that it affects, it makes their eating habits change. They have to eat at certain times. They have to work their eating schedule around like activities, and it's a struggle, especially when their teachers or their friends, parents, or people just don't understand what they're really going through. My audience is anybody who has type juvenile diabetes or prospective students, like their teachers, and anybody who really doesn't know much about this disease, because it does affect so many and it can affect you in the future. You might have a student one day that has juvenile diabetes, and you have to work your class schedule around working with him, and that causes a lot of problems for parents, and because it's hard to trust that another adult will take care of your child when they do have like 20 something other students. And my Word 204 class is obviously an audience member, but my purpose of this is to show the importance of this, bringing awareness to this disease so that more people have a deeper understanding, and the importance of continuing to do the fundraisers and raising awareness for this disease. Um, with my project, what I did was I talked to a teacher. I talked to somebody who works for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund in Louisville. I talked to a doctor, and I talked to a parent of a student who has juvenile diabetes. And we talked with the parent that I talked to. She actually homeschools her son because she's afraid that her child will go unnoticed, or like they'll struggle with remembering to make sure they test his blood sugar and make sure that he gets his medicines on time, because they do have hundreds of other students in that school, and you never really know who to trust and who to instill that trust in for your kid. Um, she doesn't think that her kid is old enough to make sure that he does it himself, so she just feels like the best option was to homeschool her child until he's old enough to take care of it, because it's really hard to trust your child's complete health in a school system that has hundreds of other kids. When I talked to the doctor, I asked him if he thought that the public had a good understanding of what juvenile diabetes really was, and he didn't really think so. He says he has patients who don't even have control of their diabetes, aren't even bothered by the fact that they don't have control of it. And when he'll have to tell parents that their child does have juvenile diabetes, like none of them really have a clue of what they're talking about. And most of them, like, when you tell them that, they just think that they're going to have to test blood sugar. They don't know that they're going to have to work completely around a different schedule just to make sure that their child gets the help that they need. And he wasn't sure if like bringing awareness would help that, but he was hopeful that if the public starts like understanding more of what this disease really is, that students won't have to be homeschooled one day because their parents are afraid that they won't get the help that they need at the school. And when I talked to a teacher, she had told me that she hadn't really had any students with this disease, so she wasn't sure if she knew how to handle it or how she would make sure that the child got the help they need, like sending it to the school nurse. She was concerned about what would happen if the school nurse wasn't at school that day. Would the child get his medicine, or would the child go unnoticed? And that's a big concern that the mom of the juvenile diabetic had too. She didn't want to make the school liable for his complete health. And it's a scary thing because nobody really understands what it really takes to take control of this disease. And when I talked to the teacher, she had also mentioned that remembering to send students to take medicine once a day is hard enough, let alone sometimes these kids have to test their blood sugar twice a day or before lunch. And when you have 30 kids in the classroom, it's hard to remember every little thing about all of them, even if it is something as important as this. When I talked to the person who works with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation in Louisville, she was very adamant that there wasn't enough awareness surrounding this. She's said there are minimal foundations, and one main foundation doesn't yet get the attention that they're thriving for. She says that most of the people who do support her foundation are the ones who they've been affected by type 1 diabetes, and they are usually not too in depth on what this really is. They're still new and they're still getting used to it. And she thinks that unless you experience type 1 diabetes or juvenile diabetes, you're not going to know what people are going through. They have these pre-assumptions on what diabetes is and who gets it. And they usually base that off of knowledge they've obtained through hearsay as through knowledge that they've really, really come to know. My completed work is I've done all these interviews and put them together, and my paper. Work remaining is just I want to learn more about this disease because I know it affects so many, and I've worked with kids my whole life that I couldn't imagine not giving them what they need when they need help. And for feedback, you can email me at shelby.caudell44@uky.edu. Thanks.